Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the She Trucking First online webinar with Miss April Taylor. Today, our topic is healing our truckers. During Truck Driver Appreciation Week, it's helping truckers heal. Okay, we're gonna help truckers heal with Miss April Taylor with sound and living counseling service. And so Miss April is special and dear to my heart because she is and still is my counselor. Oftentimes I say, Miss April, can I talk to you? Sometimes as women and just as people in general, we go through challenges and we need someone to talk to. So without further ado, welcome Miss April Taylor to the She Trucking webinar.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. I appreciate your introduction and your kind words and your invitation to talk to the truckers. I really enjoy that. I will say on the front end, I want you to do a couple things. One, if you can take notes, do that. Save your questions to the end because I'm going to try to leave some room for some questions. And I really I had to do some research, Ray, because I know I deal with some truckers, but it's like not my wheelhouse. So I had to go out and do some research, and I was shocked by the research. So I'm going to share some of that information with you guys at the beginning, and then we're going to talk about what mental health is. And then at the end, we're going to talk about some hope and some solutions and some things that can help you. So I'm going to share my screen and jump right in, okay? Okay, so again, I'm April Taylor, and this presentation is for She Trucking. We're going to talk about healing for truckers, breaking the stigma. There's a huge stigma, and as you see these statistics, it makes the stigma make more sense. As I noticed, as when I did the research and started looking at the information, then I understand the stigma even in trucking. The first thing I want you to do is just think about yourself. Even before I do this presentation, I want each person, I'm going to do it too, to stop for just a second and do a mental health check-in. How you doing? I'm full of love. These are our options. Red is I'm full of love and doing amazing. So that's a red. Orange, I'm feeling pretty good. Yellow, I'm functioning but feeling anxious and worried. Green, I feel lost and broken inside. Blue, I'm happy and feeling great. Black, or kind of gray black, could be better, could be worse, but I'm okay. Pink, I'm having a hard time and wouldn't mind having someone to talk to. And then purple, I'm in a really dark place and I really need someone to talk to. So I want you to think about that for yourself. You don't have to answer that for me, but just think about where you are in your life in this mental health check-in. When we start the presentation, I just want you to think about that. And at the end, when we open the floor, we can talk about how you select what you selected. So we're going to talk about some facts, just the facts. I just did a little research, a little general research, not even in depth, but just to kind of give you some stats on mental health in general. 50% of all adults, and this is just age 18 to 24, report anxiety and depression symptoms, and this is in 2023. So that's half of all young adults, 18 to 24. 5.44% of adults experience severe mental illness. That's over 12.1 million adults, or 4.8% and 4.8% have reported thoughts of suicide. And I put the dates down here so you'll know they're pretty updated statistics. 21% of adults are experiencing at least one mental illness, and that's roughly 50 million people. 50% of adults with mental illness have not received any treatment. So if we think about that, 55% have not received any treatment. That's a large statistic. Key facts. Depression is a common mental disorder. Globally, that's worldwide, an estimated 5% of adults suffer from depression. 5%, that's a pretty big number. Nearly 4 in 10, and that's 39%, report symptoms of anxiety and depression, and that's as of February 2021. And then it's up from In 2021, it's up in 2023. It's up to, let me say it again. In 2021, it was 39%. In 2023, it's 32.3%. So it's actually, the number is down. So now let's talk about truckers specifically. Okay, this is the research I was doing that was just shocking me this morning when I was kind of look this up just to make sure I could be relevant to this topic. There's no denying that trucking is a tough job. So we all know that. We got long hours, hectic schedules, being away from home can add to stress for truckers' daily lives. But even more, they can all contribute to our mental health struggles, depression, anxiety, chronic loneliness, and more. So that's, acknowledgement that just the job of trucking can cause stress and can cause issues with mental health. This was interesting. Truckers can take anxiety medication, and we'll get to that next slide. So some is commonly prescribed anxiety medications include Zoloft, Lexapro, Wellbutrin, and Trazodone. The reason this is important is because this is allowed. Like if you are a trucker and you have anxiety, you can take these medications and get better. And we'll talk about medications and why that's important. But this shocked me. I cannot believe this stat and this information. Mental health disqualifying conditions. The Department of Transportation disqualifying mental health conditions include depression. So you can't have depression or a history of psychosis, schizophrenia, suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, or a suicide attempt. Now let me tell you why this is important. When we just did the statistics and said 1 in 5, as truckers, we're gonna meet those 1 in 5 as well. And so since depression, which is very common in Americans, is not allowed in truckers, and I understand from the standpoint, I don't want a trucker out on the road who is depressed, actively depressed at the moment. That makes sense to some extent, or actively suicidal or actively psychosis. I can see those things. However, I can see how this would cause a stigma if you're feeling this way, but it's a problem for truckers. And just to make you in good company, this is kind of common for police officers. It's also common for military. We can be in the military, but we can't be depressed. We can be a police officer, but we can't be depressed. So that's why we call this breaking the stigma. We really got to talk about that, because if 1 in 5 Americans or worldwide have these emotions, then that's not going to eliminate truckers. Truckers are going to have issues with it as well. So I just want to kind of put this stuff in the front end. So we're going to talk about this. We got some solutions and some hope, but I want to make sure we mention those things. And then again, truck drivers can take a major toll on your physical health. That's things like heart disease, obesity, hypertension, sleep disorders, and more. And guess what? With those things, and we're going to talk about this in the presentation too, those things are comorbid with, guess what? Depression. So just because you have heart disease and obesity and hypertension, you're more likely to have depression. So it's very important that you're here today, or that you get this presentation, because I'm really going to offer you some hope and some things you can do about what's likely to be, your condition at some point in your life, even while you're a trucker. So let's just think about the last few years that we've been through. We've been through so much. We've been through a pandemic. We've had relationship issues. We've had things that just go wrong in our life. Just we've been through a lot of different things. So with that, with relationship problems, with the pandemic, mental health issues come along with those things. Family problems. We have issues with families. Not all of our families get along, and even the ones that get along, we still have issues sometimes. So realizing that over the years, we've had issues with families, especially with the distance and the pandemic and the losses. It's just made a different dynamic with families. So again, that would affect our mental health. Let's think about trauma. Abuse, child abuse, alcohol abuse, things that happen in childhood, maybe an accident as a trucker, maybe having something major happen to you while you're driving, PTSD, all of those things are factors. So if we've had some major trauma in our life, then we're more likely to have anxiety and depression. which are mental health things. So we've got to think about what's happened to us. Have we been a victim? Do we have nightmares? Are we on edge? Has something happened that caused us trauma? And then I use this picture to kind of represent mental health in general. You know, we've got anxiety, depression, we've got suicide thoughts, schizophrenia, just so many emotional things. We've got negative thinking. We're all over the place sometimes, ADHD. All of this can be kind of represented in this slide. There's a lot going on, and most of us have been affected by something, one thing or another, with the things that are going on. General anxiety, let's talk about what that is and what it looks like. You know, you've got restlessness, fatigue, excessive worry, increased muscle aches and soreness, impaired concentration, irritability, difficulty sleeping. All of those things come with anxiety. Many of those come with depression as well, but all of those come with anxiety. And so anxiety is on a spectrum. In different circumstances and because of different, maybe the news we watch, because of our lifestyle, because of what's going on in the world. Even with, I know you're a trucker, so maybe some of you are in Pennsylvania. They just caught the guy after about 2 weeks. So even things like that in the news can affect our mental health. So things like that. So that's, you know, those are anxiety provoking. I love this slide. This slide talks about comorbidity. When we think about depression, and I don't even know if I guess I'll go back to that previous slide to talk about depression a little bit. But depression looks like we have a lack of sleep. We have too much sleep or too little sleep. We either eat too much or eat too little. We don't feel like doing the things that we used to enjoy. We're stuck. We're in bed. We're just not able to get up and go to work, not able to do what we need to do. So that's what depression looks like. And depression, our next slide, is comorbid with so many conditions. And when I say comorbid, I mean it exists with. So if you have arthritis or hypertension or diabetes or asthma, cancer, stroke, you're more likely to have depression just because of your medical condition. Most people don't know that. And if you ever had depression and it came out of nowhere, this is probably why. And it shows the statistics and it shows the comorbid rate. And so like how likely it is that you will have depression if you have diabetes. So it's just very important to recognize that. And I like to talk to people about that. And since in the trucker statistics, it said you're more likely to have these things, then you're more likely to be depressed. It's just a fact. I mean, it was their stat that said you're more likely to have these disorders. And then the disorder stat says you're more likely to be depressed. So it's just important to know the information. And then with the pandemic and with all the things that's been going on in the world, we've had a lot of grief and loss. We've lost loved ones. We've lost family members, husbands, spouses, children. We've just had a lot of loss. You know, over 1.something million people died from the pandemic. That's a lot of people. That's a lot. I think it's 1.7 million, but saw something like that, a stat like that this morning. That is a lot of people. So everybody knows somebody who has been lost during this season, and it's just hard. And so with that, it's hard to get better. It's hard to move on. Sometimes we get stuck. So it's a very important thing to kind of recognize the effect of grief and loss on your mental health. Sometimes we're heartbroken. You know, things have happened in our lives. Things don't go the way we planned. We have some disruption in life for some reason. It could be a breakup. It could be a divorce. It could be a job loss. You know, people are fragile and we have to handle with care a lot. So with so much we've had all these natural disasters in the world, from Morocco to Hawaii. We've had floods and hurricanes, and just in the past couple of weeks, we've had all of that. And then there's political unrest sometimes. There's just a lot of stuff going on. So it makes us fragile. So we need to handle with care. but we need to make sure we take care of ourselves as well as our loved ones and the people around us. And I know I'm saying a lot of information. If you think about it and you know somebody, maybe it's not you, maybe it's somebody you know. So make sure you share this information with somebody else, because this information can save a life. So the good news is I've got some, I know all of that was kind of tough and depressing and hard to hear and all of that, but I've got some hope. I've got some good news available. Hope is available. We can make our own mental health a priority. We can do things that affect our mental health. We don't have to just be depressed or have anxiety and just let it go. We can do something about it. So that's good news. And so we're going to talk about how to make your mental health a priority. What are some things you can do to specifically help you be better as a trucker, as a person? These are some things you can do. So healing isn't about erasing or forgetting the hurt. It's about reframing your experiences so they add a depth and meaning to your life. So we talked about trauma. Sometimes we've been through so much trauma, we're like, I'm never going to heal from all that trauma. But that's possible. But how do we move on? How do we move forward? Counseling and some other resources that we're going to talk about will help us add meaning to life and help us move forward. You know, our first line of defense is our PCP. Go to your doctor, let them know what's going on. Let them know you're a trucker, so you don't need a diagnosis, but let them know how you're feeling is real. Acknowledge that, reach out to your doctors, your nurse practitioners, your PCP. That's your first line of defense. You go to that person first. And the reason is, even as a counselor, I'm going to send you to your doctor because I want to rule out anything medical that can be underlining the depression or the anxiety or whatever mental health symptoms I see. So the PCP and myself work hand in hand. Any counselor, any good counselor is going to work with your PCP primarily. And what's really cool is if you were to be on medication for whatever reason, you should be going to counseling at the same time, because counseling and medication works best. That's the evidence-based approach. So not just medicine, not just counseling, but both work hand in hand together. And I know there was some stigma around medicine for depression, but if we get you feeling better, you know, that's going to be the best thing. So let's look at what else is available. Counseling. I talked about counseling. I'm a counselor, so I'm going to be an advocate for counselors, but there are coaches, there are counselors, there's social workers. There's a lot of different practitioners that are available that you can reach out and you can talk to. Psychologists will fall in that category, psychiatrists. You need to reach out and get help. Psychiatrists and psychologists fall in the doctors as well. So they're both PhD or doctorate level, but they're here to help and support your mental health. So they're all mental health providers that are here to help. Grief share. We talked about grief and loss and over 1 million people that we've lost during this season. I had a personal, let me give you a little personal testimony. I had personal losses back in 2020. I lost my mom, my aunt, and uncle, and several cousins to the pandemic. And so with that, it was devastating. I mean, it just broke my heart. I'm one of those people who believe everybody was going to survive, and they didn't. So, and I had one aunt that survived out of the 4 that were really, really close. And so that was just devastating. I mean, it was 3 sisters, 2 of them died, 1 survived. And so, and one of them happened to be my mom. And so with that, it just broke my heart. And so I had to go get my own help so that I can help you. And in the beginning, when I had my own mental health struggles back in the day, over 25 years ago, I had to get my own help. That's why I'm such an advocate for mental health and for help and being available. But Grief Share is a program that's available through churches. You just look up this word, Grief Share. It'll show you what programs are available in your area. They're usually available via Zoom as well. So you can either log on or you can go in person. Fantastic program. It's really amazing and really, really helpful. So I'm definitely advocating for Grief Share. And while I've got that, I don't think I have a slide for it, but Celebrate Recovery. If you have substance abuse issues, Celebrate Recovery is very similar. It's available to help with substance abuse. So, and it's also available online and through churches. So Celebrate Recovery is another resource that's available. prayer. Let's talk about prayer because prayer works. A lot of times people try to separate church and mental health. I believe they go hand in hand. I believe I can't do anything without Jesus. He does all of the work. So prayer is important. You know, you praying for one another, praying for each other, praying for yourself, going to God, asking for help. Whoever your God is, I call him Jesus, but whatever you call him, go to him and he can help. So prayer is definitely a good resource when it comes to mental health. God understands it. The Bible talks a lot about mental health. There's a lot of issues that are mentioned in the Bible and that are very, very clear that there would be mental health issues, but God healed them. And so just like he healed back in those times, he can heal us. So I just want to say prayer works. You can't pour from an empty cup, so take care of yourself first. If you're on an airplane and you're sitting next to your kid, the pilot's going to come on and he's going to, or the flight attendant is going to say, put on your mask first before you help somebody else. That's because if I don't have my oxygen on, how I'm going to help my baby, how I'm going to help my children, how I'm going to help anybody else. So we have to take care of ourselves first. From a biblical standpoint, it says, love your neighbor as yourself. So how am I going to love my neighbor if I'm not loving me? I've got to have something in me to give to my neighbor. I've got to have something in me to help somebody else. So that's why we have to take care of ourselves first. And that's why self-care is so important. And we take care of ourselves so that we can take care of other people, not just to take care of ourselves all day, every day, and don't do anything for anybody else. We still have to give back. We still need to help. We still got to live in the world, but taking care of our health ourselves will equip us to take care of other people. So let's look at types of self-care. We've got physical self-care, sleep, stretching, walking, exercise, yoga. I walked this morning. My husband, my daughter, and myself are walking. It is so cool to have a whole crew getting out every morning and walking the neighborhood. We have a steep hill, so we hit the hill every day, and we walk actually 2 neighborhoods, but it's pretty cool. I'm going to look and see what my stats say about how many steps I have already. And if you have a Fitbit, I would recommend that you use it and that you record your steps. So this morning, as of the time of this recording, I have 7,477 steps. That's pretty cool. But just do what you can. But using a Fitbit will help you record those steps, or using your watch or do something like that. And try to get 10,000 steps a day. That's usually what's recommended. Emotional self-care. You've got to recharge your battery. That's what that little symbol looks like. We got stress management. We got to have coping skills, compassion for one another, compassion for yourself, going to therapy, journaling. I recommend journaling highly. A lot of people won't journal because they say, well, I can't journal every day, or I get distracted, or I can't keep up with it. That's okay. I recommend PRN. Just journal as needed. When something's going on and you got an issue, then journal then. So just journal what you can, and maybe journal your emotions. What are you feeling today? I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling upset. And then why am I feeling sad? Why am I angry? Why am I upset? Journal that. If you've got a loss, write a letter to your loved one. That's a type of journaling. There's lots of different things you can do with journaling, but it's very healing therapeutically and emotionally. Socially, set boundaries. I have the privilege to go into my Sunday school class this Sunday, this Sunday coming up, and teach, not this Sunday, next Sunday, teach about boundaries to kids. How cool is that? But we all have to set boundaries, and boundaries start with us. We try to set boundaries and decide what other people are going to do. We can't control anybody else. We can only control ourselves and what we're going to do. So setting boundaries means deciding what I'm going to do if somebody else does something else. So that's the thing about boundaries. You need a good support system, recognizing your support system, recognizing your circle, who's in your circle. Try to make that circle positive as much as you can. And I will put this caveat. I know we all want positive circles and we all want to be around happy, healthy, whole people, but then nobody's out there helping the depressed or the sad or the person who's anxious. So we have to be open to helping people who are not okay so that they can get okay. If we cut all the people off that are not okay, guess what? They're out there struggling by themselves. So we do have to take care of ourselves so that we can help take care of our friends who may be struggling. careful. I love social media. I am a fan, but there are some negative things about social media and positive things. So you have to balance it. But if social media is overwhelming to you, then cut it off. You don't have to have it. It's not something you have to do. So you can do without it if you have to. But if you can use it and you can use it in a positive way, then it's okay. But if it's taking all of your time and you can't write your book or do whatever it is you want to do, then you might have to cut it out for that reason. Communication. I love to teach about communication. I love to help people have healthy conversations. I like to help people slow down and listen and hear people's hearts. It's just so important. Friends and relationships, having those social friends, having relationships is critical. We really all need that. We all need a great circle. So, nurture your friendships. Spiritual. Take time alone. My quiet time is my favorite thing. Just going quiet. Sometimes I walk with no headphones. I don't tell my walk with no headphones on because I have my family with me. But if I'm walking by myself, it's just me and God. We have a conversation. I love to listen to things. I like books. I like listening to things. But I really have to take the time and just have that quiet time between me and God. So it's very, very important to nurture that. Meditate. Meditate on scripture. Pray. Spend time in nature. I love getting out and going to a waterfall. Riding my bike. I like to ride my bike in the woods. I don't really like to be out in the city where everybody is. I got like some nooks that I kind of sneak away and ride in. But it's so meditative and it's so contemplative where I'm just alone with God. It's pretty awesome. And have a sacred space. Have a sacred space in your house. Have a sacred space in your office where you just go and be alone with God. It's important. Personal hobbies. I love this. I really didn't understand the link between, I knew it, but I didn't know it until I went through my own grief and loss and trauma experience and realized that having hobbies and creativities and goals and things that are your own personal things, having fun and creating things is very therapeutic. Painting. I like to paint, dance, doing things that you enjoy really help you heal. So traveling, there's just so many things you can kind of add into that. Space, having a healthy space, a safe space at home, a safe space at work, a healthy environment, stability. Nobody wants to go into a place where it's always chaotic. So try to make sure your home is not chaotic. Try to make sure your business is not chaotic, because that makes for a healthy environment and make it a safe place is a healing place. So you want to make sure that your environment is safe as possible. Financial. Now this is funny. I love that it's on here: saving, budgeting, money management, paying bills, boundaries. I like that it's here, but I refer somebody. I have a friend. I'm gonna give a shout out to my friend that I refer about it to. For Niece Man, if you're having trouble with finances and you can't save, you can't budget, call Nisi. Nisi will get you right together. And so sometimes our mental health is off because our finances is off. Sometimes our mental health is off because our relationships is off. I do a lot of relationship work, a lot of family work. I get that relationship better, that family better. Guess what happens to the mental health? It gets better. So I love working through those kind of things. And then work. This is so important. If your work environment is stressful, then you have to find ways to set boundaries at work, use time management, take breaks. I know the trucking industry is very, very complex. And there are times when you have to drive, but you can't drive but so far, or you have to get a job done at a certain time. But on those breaks, those mandatory breaks, then that's when you can do your self-care. Build it into those times. You're going to have the break anyway. Build self-care into that. And I know you have to have sleep as a part of that, but sleep is a part of your healing. Sleep is a part of your self-care. You see how on physical, it was the very first thing it says, sleep. The number one thing we can do for our mental health is get enough sleep. And 8 hours is what's recommended. If you're getting 6 or less, then try to increase it, maybe 15 minutes a night till you get it up to 8. But 8 hours is recommended. And your Fitbit will help you measure your sleep to see how you're doing in the area of sleep. So very, very, very important. Okay, do what you love. I know some of you are in trucking because that's what you love. That's wonderful. But doing what you love will help you heal, will help make your life better. I love speaking, teaching, sharing, counseling, all of it. And I get to do what I love every day. How cool is that? That is just the coolest thing. So do what you love. Find something that you can do that you really love and enjoy doing. I have an acronym for you to think about. I'm coming toward the end. So this is the acronym I want you to think about. And it's called, and I learned this in Grief Share, so I'll give a shout out to Grief Share again. But they called it My Dear, and I added an S to it because I know dear is not plural, but I added an S just because I wanted to add the spiritual. But the M is for meditate or mindfulness. Spend some time, learn mindfulness, meditate, spend some time just quieting yourself and centering yourself and being quiet. Yoga. Learn yoga, do yoga, get out, stretch. Stretching is so good for you. It also teaches you to relax. Relaxation is a very important part of your mental health. Drink water. We don't think about it. One of the things when I first started working out, guys said, "You're not drinking enough water." He reminded me to drink water. So I have a big old water cup that I use. I don't have it ready, but I'll go get it ready today because I'm reminded. But drink enough water. Talk to your doctor about how much is enough. I try to get about a gallon in a day, but get enough water every day. Eat right. Eat healthy. I like to eat to feed my brain. So I like to eat salmon, avocado, nuts, beans, legumes. I'm vegetarian, except for, pescatarian because I eat salmon and fish. But I try to eat healthy because the more healthy I eat, I know that I'm feeding my brain, and it helps to balance my mental health. It helps to make my mood flatline, and it's so important. So look into eating and pay attention to what you're eating because it's where you get your energy and your food. So make sure you're putting healthy things inside your body. The next E is exercise, move. Our physical reminding us to walk, ride a bike, exercise, do something fun, do things you like to do. I like hiking the waterfalls. If I want to be out there hiking, I might as well find something great at the end, right? So I always hike to waterfalls. My husband took me to like a 700-foot waterfall. It was the coolest thing ever. And it's close to here. It's called Amnicola Falls. It's close to where we are in Georgia. It's in Georgia, close to where we are in Tennessee. Beautiful, beautiful. But just do something you love, enjoy. The R is for rest. I mentioned sleep, get enough sleep, take a nap if you have to, but rest is a part of your healing. It's where your cells grow, where your brain regenerates. All of the healing in your body occurs while you're sleeping. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not healing. You're not growing. You're not doing better. So you have to get enough sleep. And then spiritual. You have to nurture your spiritual being. Nurture who you are, nurture your inside, spend time with God, slow down, read your Bible, study, pray, meditate, take care of your spiritual self. Because if you don't, you're not going to have a relationship with God. If you don't spend time with that relationship, you're not going to have a healthy relationship. I want to put this number in here. This number is your friend. If you got a pen today, write this down, 988. It's a suicide and crisis lifeline. This may be for you, but it may be for a friend. It may be for a trucker friend. It may be for some family member. 988 is a number that you could text, call, or chat. So one number, you could do all three. It's easy to remember. There used to be an 800 number. I still don't remember the 800 number, but I remember 988. So 988, if you've got a friend in crisis, that's the number you want to call. If you're in crisis, that's the number you want to call. If you know a trucker in crisis and they're telling you about all their issues, that's the number we want to call because 988 is there to support us. So you definitely want to learn that number. Again, text, call, or chat, and it's 24/7. It's nationwide as well. So it's a great support. It's a good place to go if you're in crisis. You can call with any mental health information and they'll redirect you to where you need to go. So let's talk about it's okay to. It's okay to be yourself. Sometimes we have trouble with mental health because we're in spaces that are not safe where we can be ourselves. And so I've kind of committed to myself that wherever I go, whether it's online doing a webinar or whether it's church or wherever I go, I'm going to be me. I'm going to be my best self. And you know what? I feel so much better when I do that. It's okay to have slow days or sad days. It's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make them. Everybody makes them. And we can learn from our mistakes and grow from our mistakes, but mistakes are very, very normal. It's okay to not be okay. There are days when I'm not okay. As a therapist, there are days when I'm not okay. Sometimes I'm in the bed. Sometimes I'm dragging. Sometimes I'm stuck. Sometimes I struggle. That's a real thing. And it's okay to struggle. It's okay to ask for help. A lot of times when we're the helper and we're the person who's always helping and giving and doing, we don't want to ask for help. Well, why not? I talked about prayer. Prayer is going to God and asking him for help or thanking him for whatever he's done. But it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to ask people for help, not just God. You can ask God who to ask and who's a safe person to ask. But it's okay. There are people out here who want to help other people. When I talk about the providers, the counselors, the social workers, the doctors, the psychiatrists, we all have one thing in common. We want to help. We're here. It's an industry full of people who want to help you get better. So it's people, so ask for help. It's okay not to know things. I had to look up truckers' information this morning. I didn't know that depression is a disqualifying diagnosis. I did not know that until today. Stunned me to see that. So it's okay to say, I don't know. So I came on and said, I had to look up your industry to help you. And I'm happy to be able to say that, because it would not have been authentic to pretend like I'm a trucker and I know everything about trucking. I don't. I have to own that. It's okay to be imperfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect, and that's okay. There's a book called The Gifts of Imperfections. I love that. I love the concept of just being myself and telling you about my imperfections and my flaws and the struggles that I have personally, because it lets you know that everybody can struggle. I talked about your industry not being able to be depressed. What if no counselor could be depressed, or no counselor could have anxiety or have psychosis or take medication? That would rule me out. I wouldn't be able to be your counselor. So it's a sad industry that doesn't recognize that everybody struggles at some point and that we all need help. Again, I can see why we wouldn't want you depressed on the road. That makes sense. But the fact that you have depression shouldn't be disqualifying. It should help you. There should be a place where you can go and be safe and get help. So hopefully we can help facilitate that for the trucking industries. And it's okay to feel unhappy. We're not going to be happy every day. I want to be happy every day. I'm happy today. I like being happy. But we're not going to be happy every day. That's just the reality. And so we just need to own that reality and realize that some days are going to be harder than other days. And that's okay. So this brings us to our end, and I want to open the floor for questions, comments. I'm going to stop sharing just so I want you to make sure you take down my phone number, 423-505-5475. Although I'm not an active counselor right now, I am available to point you to other resources in the community, or maybe even tell you where you can find resources in your area. But feel free to call me. I'll still help, even though I'm not an active counselor right now. So I'm going to stop sharing and just open the floor for any questions, any comments, and just kind of, make it available. And Sheree, if you've got any, if anybody's sending any questions that you have, you can kind of let me know.